Welcome, guys, to the first ever podcast episode of From the Sidelines. I'm here with Logan Cole and Dylan Everett. And the first episode we'll be talking about is just SEC football standing predictions on what we think is going to happen this upcoming fall.
And this is only part one of probably 3 or 4. It is only February, so
Yeah,
It's
way
way too early.
we still got spring games, spring portal, full off season.
Yeah, I mean we'll probably do 2 or 3 more before spring practices, maybe.
4, yeah.
ACC, Big 10, Big 12, all that stuff we'll do. And
I'm terrified of doing the Big 12, dude. You can make 5 prediction videos for the Big 12.
Texas Tech with all that NIL money that they just sold.
They hit the portal, man.
The number one team.
All those oil.
They did lose Micah though.
I mean, what was it like? 5 point?
They barely.
They barely used them though. Yeah.
They barely had him last year. Well, I mean, they had him, but yeah, like you said, they didn't use him.
But I mean, other than football, we'll talk about some baseball. Big baseball fans. A little bit of basketball. Of course, college basketball.
Especially March Madness. Yeah,
March Madness coming up here.
You know, you got the combine draft, all that stuff coming up.
Yeah, we'll cover the NFL draft a lot. Especially
for all of it.
Especially our teams: Giants, Titans, Saints.
You're bold wearing that.
I got to though, bro.
Hey, at least he's not a bandwagon.
True that. Bray, sorry. You can edit that part out.
No, we won't.
We'll keep that.
Where's that?
We'll keep it.
All right. Anyways, so let's go ahead and jump into the SEC standing predictions.
I say we start with Bama.
Majority rules. Me and Dylan are both big Alabama fans.
Yeah.
Huge.
Surely no bias would be involved.
I mean, taking a look at the schedule, they're going to open up Florida State on the road.
I got that a win. That's a win.
Yeah, for sure. Mike Norvell. What do you guys think of him? Going into the next season. Does he have a certain amount of wins he needs to get this year?
I think so. I feel like if he didn't sign that contract extension, he'd already be out the door. He's a great recruiter. I'll give him that. But
I mean, at Florida State, whether you want it to be a blue blood or not, with a program of that stature, there's standards, and 2-10 is not the standard by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, no. I mean that's going to be the biggest fall off in NCAA football history for sure.
And, it did suck because I think it was they had 32% returning production, one of the Power Fours, and it was overall just a very unfortunate season. And then
I do think
obviously. Yeah. Could have turned out better, a lot better. But I mean, even the defense, which is one of Mike Norvell's strong suits, was just absolutely piss poor.
I do think DJ was a big part in that 2-10 season, though. Of course.
Oh,
I mean, he just wasn't.
It was not Oregon State DJ at all.
No, Oregon State DJ. I mean,
Oregon State DJ wins more games.
He looked like he's been in college for 4 or 5 seasons. He knew what he was doing. He was comfortable in that Jonathan Smith run first RPO system, and he looked a lot comfortable.
All right, so Dylan, what is your record prediction for the Crimson Tide?
Y'all gonna love this.
Rip it.
I'm gonna say 11-1. We either lose at Georgia or we lose to Tennessee.
I agree. I mean, playing at home against LSU, Tennessee, going on the road to Auburn, it's going to be tough.
JS Voodoo, man.
It's just like Nick Saban, you don't want to play there. Everyone knows that. Texas A&M saw that this past year, the OT. Anyways, I'd probably go 11-1 as well. I say we're losing to Georgia. Georgia's, Gunnar Stockton going to be that guy to lead them.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a huge question mark for him.
I just don't think Gunners will be that guy. That's just me, though.
Yeah, I don't know. Seeing that Sugar Bowl, game, Mike Bobo in that offense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, Logan.
I got y'all going 9-3, man. I have y'all losing to Georgia. I have y'all losing to Tennessee, even though it's at home. I just think they're going to be a better team, and it could go either way depending on LSU brought in a lot of defensive transfers, and they really, even you look at Nick Anderson and all the offensive power they added. Garrett Nussmeier, year 2 starting. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in college. But I think they're going to split LSU and Auburn. Obviously Jordan Hare is a very it's voodoo. I mean, there's nothing else to put it for that. They're lucky they do have LSU at home, and we saw what you guys did to them in Death Valley. But then again, their biggest weakness,
42-13.
Their biggest weakness last season, we saw it in the Texas A&M game. We saw it in the South Carolina game before Sellers went down before half. They couldn't stop a rushing quarterback. I don't think that's going to be a reoccurring trend this season. And obviously y'all aren't going to have Jalen Milroe again. I don't know who your starter is going to be. It's probably going to be Ty Thompson. Not Ty Thompson. My bad. Ty Simpson.
It's Oregon guy.
Oregon, bro.
Ty Simpson.
I do think it's Simpson's job to lose.
Just purely based off of experience.
Look, y'all know me. Already. I'm huge on Keelan Russell. That's what I want it to be.
I feel like everybody is, though, but starting a true freshman in the SEC is just...
I haven't seen any love on the Bama Twitter on Ty Simpson. They all want it to be Keelan Russell. It's fine. I mean, me personally think Ty Simpson will have a Mac Jones type year.
Plenty of weapons.
I see it,
but yeah, I think they dropped one of the home game against LSU or the away game at Auburn.
Yeah, I mean we'll.
I feel like 9-3. I mean,
you look at,
On 3 has you guys with a 67th ranked transfer class. Y'all had a differential of like 24. Y'all lost so much, and you only got 8 or 9 guys in.
Yeah.
New starting quarterback. If he can figure it out, great. But we'll see.
Hey, but our recruiting class coming in is amazing. I love what we did on the recruiting trail this past season. I feel like a few of those guys will be instant impacts.
How many returning starters on defense? 9, 8?
8 or 9, yeah. I think we'll have a top 5 defense this year.
I mean, in that second half of last season, I mean, y'all had a great defense. Yeah. I mean, the defense was phenomenal.
It was for sure the most underrated part of the team outside of the Vanderbilt game.
Well, whenever your quarterback was what Jalen Milroe was last season, and you only put up 3 points against one of the worst SEC teams that there was last season. I mean, that's going to get overlooked a lot.
Yeah, I mean that was just a brutal game. I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, let's go. Let's just move on that.
And the addition of one more thing on Alabama, Ryan Grubb. Let's be real here. He's gonna have the same call sheet Nick did.
I don't agree with you on that, bro.
I mean, I think it's more players. It's more players than plays. I mean, of course, Ryan Grubb is a good coach.
The only reason why I disagree with you on that is because I don't know how many Alabama games I tuned into where I saw a QB draw or a QB power like 2 or 3 times on the same drive.
Grubb wouldn't do that.
You get a quarterback that fits the Board system like he had at Fresno State with Jake Haener, someone who can stand in the pocket, a guy like Michael Penix Jr. at Washington. Granted, Washington had, the Joe Moore winner, best offensive line in the country. Not the best offensive line in the country, personally, for me. But anywho, that's a debate for another day. But you get a guy that fits this system that is not afraid to stand in the pocket, take a hit, that doesn't flush out of the pocket after first ounce of pressure. I mean, he's got, Ty Simpson, got that one right. Ty Simpson and Keelan Russell both fit that mold. And I think it's going to open up the play calling a lot more. I think you guys are going to still keep Ryan involved a lot, but start spreading it out a little bit because, you go look at Washington when DeBoer was there. I mean, Rome Odunze, obviously top 10 pick. He was a great receiver in college. But the way he got Penix to spread the ball was absolutely insane.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was definitely one of my favorite teams to watch that year. I'm just a huge Penix fan, so I was very disappointed on DeBoer's offense with Milroe because I thought,
I thought it would be a little more exciting.
yeah, no doubt. But I don't know.
Look.
Maybe we'll see flashes of it this year.
Look, and it was exciting the first few weeks leading up to that Georgia game, and into the Georgia game, it was exciting. Like it peaked in the Georgia game.
It peaked in the first half.
It peaked in that first half.
After the first half, it disappeared.
Kirby kind of, showed a lot of.
That's another reason why I have you guys dropping the Georgia game is because I trust Kirby. I mean, you look at last year's Georgia team. I mean, one of the lowest offensive passing yards per game, one of the lowest rushing yards per game in the top 25. I mean, their offense was just bad last season. They didn't have the weapons. Their offensive line was banged up. Tate Ratledge, for example, that offensive line was banged up. Injuries coming in and in with the weapons that they had. And, I mean, when you have the best coach in college football, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt. All right, speaking of Georgia, we'll head on to Georgia.
The Bulldogs.
Yep.
So, Mr. Dillon, what do you have them going?
I got them going 10-2. I got them losing to us in Texas.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I had them. I didn't have their record put down here, but I did have them probable losses to Texas and Alabama. But my only question mark is, obviously we don't know what Florida is going to be. We know what Lagway is and what kind of quarterback he is. He makes the guys around him play better. We obviously saw that in the back half of last season. They almost, if he doesn't go down, they beat Georgia last season.
I was just about to bring that up.
I agree.
And
I agree.
So that's a question mark. And then they're at Jordan-Hare, and Tennessee's a question mark. And I know that, handled them pretty solid last season, pretty handedly.
Yeah.
But it's in Knoxville. So there's a few question marks on that schedule, but at first glance, obviously this is version 1. It might change after spring.
No doubt.
I did have them going 10-2 with a loss to Texas and a loss to Alabama. Sorry. Probable losses to Texas and Alabama.
I just don't trust Gunnar Stockton, like I said a few minutes ago. It's just that whole season leans on him, in my opinion.
Yeah. And their weapons too. I mean, you can have a lack of weapons on the outside with, we've seen it in the past. I mean, they had Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey, but after that, who else was it? But they just, if you don't have a run game going, and I'm young, but I'm an old school guy. Every team needs to have a run game, because if you don't have a run game, you cannot sell the passing game at all. But if their offensive line can stay healthy and they can run the ball nice, and their defense is obviously going to be a top 5 unit every single season. They're just that talented and that deep on that side of the ball. The question is Gunnar Stockton and their offense.
Yes.
No doubt. For me, I got them 11-1, only dropping to Texas. That's just, same thing with y'all. Gunnar Stockton was not too impressed against Notre Dame. But I mean, he was slinging it against Texas in the SEC championship game. I mean, he can sling it.
He can.
But accuracy and wide receivers weren't his help.
No,
I mean they did not help him.
Line too.
Which last year that was Georgia's struggle. Beck would throw them deep balls. I don't know how many times they would drop it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's pretty ridiculous. I mean,
Carson Beck got a lot of hate last year because of his turnovers, and for rightful reason. I mean,
some of them were bad.
I can't remember the week it was, but he had more interceptions. He had like 7 or 8 interceptions in 3 or 4 weeks. It was the most of any quarterback in FBS.
Yeah.
And my biggest question mark, kind of piggybacking off of you guys, is whenever we talk about the offense struggling, they're gonna have those first 2 weeks to get it ready. You got Marshall, Austin Peay, but then going along with what I was saying about the question mark, his first full away experience that's not in the playoff in a neutral site is in Knoxville. And then after that, you go back to Athens, you play Alabama. And, I mean, I could easily see them going 2-2 in that 4-game stretch, depending on how Gunnar Stockton can handle those environments.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see. All right. Moving down to Austin, Texas. Texas Longhorns. What do y'all got?
11-1 or 11-2. I I'm gonna say it. I have them losing to Florida. I think. See, my biggest question mark with them is they still have a favorable schedule. Like they had a really favorable schedule last year. Their two hardest games is at Georgia and at Ohio State, and those are very two difficult games. I think Sark gets his get back at Kirby this season. I mean,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I mean, Quinn Ewers wasn't the Quinn Ewers we're used to seeing in those Georgia games, and he didn't even play. He didn't play that bad, but I mean, their offensive line was getting beat up the entire time. I think they go into the shoe in Columbus, just being a more veteran team. Ohio State's losing 8 of their 11 starters on defense. I think it's going to be a rough day for the Buckeyes. Being at home helps them a lot, but I don't think it's going to save them this time. You got San Jose State, UTEP, Sam Houston. You go at Florida, host Oklahoma. You got a good stretch of at Kentucky, at Mississippi State versus Vanderbilt, and you got to go at Athens, you got to go to Athens at Georgia. Arkansas, Texas A&M at home. I think the only for sure loss there is in the Swamp.
Okay.
Nice.
Very, very different. They are the only team I see going undefeated. They like you said, they draw a favorable schedule for them, which it will be tough on the road in Gainesville. But I just feel like, not just because of his last name, Arch Manning, seemed to bring more firepower to the offense than Quinn did when Quinn got hurt. They got a lot of guys returning on offense, and I mean, I don't see them dropping off any from last year.
And I mean, you can tell how content they are with their schedule because we've seen in the past few years, Texas has been in the portal a lot, getting holes that they know for sure are holes or positions they know for sure they're going to get better in. They did not hit the portal compared to any other team. Like they barely touched it almost. And
I was kind of shocked.
And they barely lost anybody. And that's, that sends a message to everybody that Sark knows what he has. Those are his guys that he recruited. They're within the culture. They know what they need to do to win. And you have Arch, who's been sitting there for 2 years waiting for his chance. He got a little bit last year when Quinn got hurt. It wasn't fantastic, but it also wasn't bad. There was a lot of flashes, a lot of glimpses of, what he was projected to be coming out of high school as a 5-star recruit. Losing Matthew Golden hurts, especially down the stretch. He was really fantastic.
Losing Kelvin Banks will hurt.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how their weapons work. You get I think Jaden Blue went to the draft, but
he did.
I forget. It's slipping me. The running
back.
About
CJ Baxter.
Baxter's coming back. He's a dog. You
Yeah.
get him back in the offense healthy behind a good, powerful offensive line.
Oh,
I mean,
that could be dangerous.
You are going to have to pick your poison. If their weapons can be, what they need them to be. I'm not a Texas guy. I don't know all their guys by heart. I'm not looking into them deep. I don't care. But, if their weapons can produce and help Arch out with Sark calling the plays, I mean, I can very well see them going 12-0.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. I mean,
especially with that schedule.
Outside of Alabama having one of the deepest running back rooms, I feel like Texas is right up there with them.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
That's
Sark loves running backs.
Yeah.
All right.
What about you, Dylan?
I got them going 11-1, dropping to Ohio State week 1. It's just I feel like it's gonna be tough going into the shoe. Yes, Ohio State did lose most of their defensive starters, but still, I just think Jeremiah Smith is gonna. It's just Jeremiah Smith, bro.
Yeah, and then you look at Texas; they're losing Jahdae Barron too.
Yeah,
defensive back in college.
Yeah.
Yeah,
not defensive back. That's Caleb Downs' corner. Sorry, I had to clarify.
All right, bro, don't bring up Caleb, bro.
Oh, my bad, guys.
Roll Tide, anyways. New coordinators on both sides for Ohio State.
I think it's going to be a rough first weeks. Rough first week for Ohio State. Julian Sagan's probably going to sling it. Jeremiah Smith's going to be what Jeremiah Smith is. But at the end of the day, you need more than 2 people to win a football game. Texas,
and with that right there, like Ohio State, the new offensive coordinator, he was their offensive coordinator a few years ago, but they demoted him because the offense was just so bad.
Not to mention, you look at Ohio State, they're losing 3 of their 5 starters on the offensive line.
Yep. Seth.
Texas defense is very clearly not a big problem. They know how to play ball on that side of the field.
No doubt.
mean-
Moving on. Oh, Dylan, you got something?
Back to that Texas Ohio State game. Like, I do have Texas dropping it, of course, but that game right there didn't go either way, for sure.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I mean, that's going to be. You said was that week 1, right?
Yeah, it's week 1. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great week 1 matchup. They played what in the semifinal,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, there you go. You can't get any better than that.
I mean, I know Texas lost a lot of pieces too, but I mean, Texas was the only team. I'm not going to give that to Notre Dame because Notre Dame didn't come on until late third quarter. But Texas, they were the only team in the playoff. Even Oregon, Tennessee, 2 good defenses. Texas was the only team that could keep up with Ohio State and somewhat slow them down. And if Travion Henderson doesn't break that screen, I don't know why you're sitting, 8 guys on that late in the quarter whenever it's very clearly just, let's just go ball. You know what I mean? If Travion Henderson doesn't break that free at the end of the first half, it's a very different football game. And they were very close to making it close until Jack Sawyer obviously came off the edge, got the strip sack touchdown. So,
that right there hurt it.
They're bringing back majority of those guys. I just think at the end of the day, the more experienced team is going to come in to, like Connor said, Jim Knowles went to Penn State. Chip Kelly went to the Raiders? Yeah, he went to Vegas.
Yeah, went to Vegas.
Experienced coordinators, 2 very, very talented coordinators who were very good last year for them. And Jim Knowles has been great since he's been at Ohio State. He turned around that defense once they were like, yeah, it's a problem. Brought him in, immediately fixed it. You lose 2 coordinators of that caliber. There's only one man on the earth that I know that can replace them that great, and he's retired. So I don't know how it's going to go. I don't think it's going to be a good first week for the Buckeyes, though.
Look, and back to them, I don't think that Matt Patricia hire was a good hire. That may just be me, but I don't think it was good.
I mean, I think it will be fine.
The only problem is it's going to take a while for it to start clicking.
Yeah. I agree.
I can see Ohio State. They don't have to play Oregon this year. They obviously still have to play Penn State and Michigan. I mean, Michigan beat them last year. If Michigan's a better football team this year and Ohio State lost a lot of guys, but Ohio State can't get it clicking like they did last year, which obviously they didn't get it clicking until after the regular season whenever it really mattered. But, I can very easily see – I don't think they will, but I can very easily see Ohio State losing 3 football games next season, which is crazy to say.
Yeah, and the opening line for that is OSU -3.
OSU being favored. I'd
3?
If I was of legal age of gambling, I would take that. I'd take that to the casino right now and just slam the Texas line.
Texas plus 115 is the money line. But
that right there will drop. It won't stay -3. I think go -1, -1.5 before kickoff.
You gotta go turn that in right now.
Yeah, right now.
I'd put a lot of money on Texas winning that football game. I'm very confident in that pick.
Let's go make a trip to Biloxi right now.
Absolutely.
All right, so moving to Knoxville, Tennessee. Is Nico going to have a better year? Because he did have those struggles towards the second half of the season.
All right.
I think they're sorry to interrupt you, Dylan, but
no, you're good. Go ahead.
You look at a big factor in these predictions and looking at the schedules is you see who has the favorable schedules, obviously, but then you also see you get a few tune-up weeks. Their first 2 games versus Syracuse versus ETSU. They have 4 straight home games, and one of those is Georgia. They could easily win that football game. Then you got State, Arkansas. Their next hardest teams are Alabama and then Florida. I mean, they have a favorable schedule. The only question is Nico.
Yeah.
And it's just I don't know, man. Tennessee was
not very high on them.
Tennessee was, we talked about throughout the season, they were, a little bit overrated. Their defense was insane. Oh, yeah. But, I mean, their offense they could never make it click. And one of the biggest problems was Nico could not hit the deep ball to save his life. No. I think that'll be resolved this season. So I'm a little higher on them this season than, and some people are still going to be high, but like Dylan, I know he's not going to be high on it. Connor, I don't know about you. I'm a little higher on them. I think, last season, and Nico struggles, I think it's going to play a big factor in him improving and him being better. And you got the draft coming up next season too. He's got some stock to raise.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I see them going 9-3.
I agree. Yeah.
Dropping games to Georgia, Bama, and then Florida at the Swamp.
I had them with probable losses to Florida and Bama, so I had them going about 10-2.
Okay. I mean,
I'm looking at the portal rankings right now, and I mean, I'm scrolling a good little bit. They're down there at 40. I mean, Mississippi State had a better recruiting transfer class than they did. They only brought in 4 guys.
State did a hell of a job, not only in the transfer portal, but they were top 30 in the 2025 class.
Yeah, I mean
I think they were. Yeah.
Obviously, losing Van Buren sucks. I mean, that was the only sliver of light they had last season, and losing him to a in-conference team like LSU, and him taking the bench for a year, doing what Dante Moore did at Oregon, taking a seat, realizing, okay, maybe I should sit a little bit and get myself in a better environment.
You don't see that guy. You don't see those type of guys who want to sit for a year, develop under a system.
Especially nowadays,
dude. NIL, it's all about that, and you want playing time. You want some PT
it's like JKS with Oregon. I mean, committed us, went to the Rose Bowl practice. Probably didn't get a lot of reps in the practice. Shocker, it's the Rose Bowl practice. But, he was coming in with the idea that he was going to start day one. And you still have Akili Smith Jr. in that class, too. And then you have Dante Moore. You got Austin Novosad, Luke Moga. I mean, you got guys in front of you. You're not going to start as a true freshman at Oregon.
No.
The only person that's able to do that is Marcus Mariota and Justin Herbert. Very few guys can start day one at Oregon. And, a lot of these guys, they're coming in with the idea that you're paying me a ton of money. I'm playing day one. At the end of the day, it's still football.
Yeah. I think DK Moore will start.
Oh, 100%. Well, also, guys, one of the ideas I had for an episode for you guys and, whoever watches this, I saw this on Twitter the other day, and I thought it'd be a fun idea. Each of us do like a top 10 of most impactful A, transfers, and B, freshmen, and then we can do 2 lists. I thought that'd be pretty fun and exciting because there's a lot of the talent in this 25 class is absolutely insane, and then a lot of impactful transfers.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no doubt. We'll for sure have to do that one episode.
All right. So for me, for Tennessee, I got them going 9-3. It's the same thing with Connor. Had with Georgia, Bama, Florida. I do see that Georgia game. They could beat Georgia, so they could go 10-2. That Georgia game is probable.
I'm not 1,000% on Josh Heupel either.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's a hot
There's only one big game that he won, and thank Jalen Hyatt for that.
That game single-handedly won him the Biletnikoff.
Hey, Jalen Hyatt, bro. I wish the Giants could use him, but we'll talk about that for another day.
I don't think it's a matter of choosing to use him. I think he's just
I'm like Logan said though, Josh Heupel. I mean, outside of that big game, I don't think he got blown out. Against Georgia a few years ago, last year. Mm-hmm. I can't really remember off the top of my. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, outside of that 2022, game, that's about it out of him.
I think, a big thing that, I'm a big coach guy. The big thing is whenever I'm looking at these games and stuff like that, coaching does play a big factor. And the reason why I don't have Florida winning, I'm not going to say my prediction for them, but the reason I don't have Florida winning more games is I do not trust Billy Napier. I trust DJ Lagway, but I do not trust Billy Napier at all. And they didn't bring a lot of transfers. If he's comfortable, and he's been recruiting great, don't get me wrong, but if he's comfortable with his guys, he's got to go out and show it, because if it wasn't for Lagway coming out in the way he did last season and showing life in that program, I mean, you lose back-to-back home games getting blown out by Miami and A&M. He should have been fired after those 2 games.
DJ Lagway is the reason why he is still employed.
Oh, 1,000%. If he didn't get Lagway, he would have been fired after the first 2 weeks of last season, maybe even before that. I mean,
they should have beat Georgia, by the way. Just don't say that.
It's like we were talking about Florida State. There's a standard, especially when you're an SEC school of that caliber, like Florida, and Florida's history, tradition, playing at the Swamp. It means something. And, they fired Dan Mullins for going 9-3.
Yeah,
Billy
Was it
Napier
9-3?
still
Yeah,
has
it
a
was
job. There's only one reason why he should still have a job, and it's DJ Lagway, one of the best quarterbacks in the country.
Yep, no doubt. Moving over to Baton Rouge, one of our buddies' favorite teams.
Landon.
Shout out Landon.
Swaggy Pimp on Twitter, man. Great follow.
Yeah, I'm
Go
sure
follow Swaggy Pimp.
I'm sure
right.
y'all have seen him
Shout
on
out.
Twitter or X. Anyways, huge portal for them.
Very.
Dude, and TJ Pickett's one of those guys I would have on my list of top 10 impactful transfers. A lengthy man-to-man press corner. I mean, that's exactly what they need in that room.
I mean,
TJ's gonna be the truth.
For the past few years.
They absolutely killed it in the portal. But
I mean, I can pull it up right now. I mean, they're number 6 on the portal behind Tech, Ole Miss, Oregon, Missouri, Miami, and LSU. And then it's LSU. You know, they lose 19 guys, but they bring in 16, and this, majority of that 16 they brought in is guys they needed.
Yeah.
You bring in Nick Anderson, and you bring in some more weapons, bring in some defensive talent. I mean, for me, I couldn't settle on a prediction because, like last year, I talked to Landon about it. He thought I was dumb for it, which, I mean, there's a little bit of bias in there, so I took it with a grain of salt. I said that Ford was 9-3 or 8-4, and I felt like I was pretty spot on with that one. So I did the same thing this year. I think their ceiling is 11-1. I think their floor is 9-3.
Oh yeah, I got them. I got them right at 10-2.
Yeah, me too.
Losing to Clemson start off the year because they haven't.
They cannot win a week 1 game.
No, they
They
can't.
can't. They can't. I mean, it's a lot to lose.
They're dropping the Clemson and Bama. I mean, again, another favorable schedule for them. Garrett Nussmeier, he's pretty good. I hate to say that, Hey, roll that Deontay Lawson pick though.
Yeah.
For like the games I was looking at, whenever their floor being 9-3, and their ceiling being 12-1, if they can play up to the level of the talent they have, and if Brian Kelly can save his job, because I mean, even Will Campbell said it, 9 wins gets you fired, and we just talked about that with Dan Mullen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Your first round pick, top 15 projected pick, is saying 9 wins get you fired. Did he even get that this year? Did he get 8 or 9 wins this season?
I think he ended up getting 9.
Yeah, he got 9.
Yeah, because of the bowl game against Baylor put him at 9.
Okay, let's not count the bowl game.
Okay, 8-4 regular season.
Regular season, you still get 8-4. We'll go with that. I mean, if they play up to their talent level, you drop that first game, which is pretty much like y'all said. I mean, you can't go against it at this point. It's habitual.
It's what is it? It's on the road. Is it neutral site? I don't think so.
Wait, which one? Clemson?
Yeah, it's at Clemson.
I think it's neutral. Wait, is it neutral or at?
No,
it says Clemson. Yeah,
it's at Memorial. Yeah.
So I mean,
it's a home and home series. Oh, wow.
I think they dropped Clemson for their ceiling, and then for their floor where I had them 9-3. Drop Clemson, and then even if you don't drop Clemson,
it's like that's
you play 3 teams that you lost to last year. You have Florida at home, which is huge for you guys being in Death Valley. Yeah. You got at Bama, at Bryant-Denny, and then you got A&M at home. Having A&M, South Carolina at home is huge because we saw the trouble they gave LSU last year. Now, granted, obviously their defense had a lot of fixes over the offseason that they addressed. Now it's just a matter of, like we said with Ohio State, getting it to click. But you don't have that advantage that a lot of other teams have. You have Clemson week 1, week 3 you got Florida, you got Southeastern Louisiana, and then you're at Ole Miss. I think they dropped that game in my floor. So scratch Clemson. You lose at Ole Miss. You can very well lose to South Carolina, A&M, or Alabama.
They can, yeah. I agree with Connor yet again. I think we have the same thing. I got 10-2 of them losing to Clemson and Bama. They could go 11-1 if they pull that Clemson game out. But I just think 10-2 is their ceiling.
Absolutely.
I mean, 11-1 is their ceiling.
I just think, the biggest question the past 2 years is, the offense has been great. I believe in Garrett Nussmeier. I was a denier before last season. I was just letting him talk. But Garrett Nussmeier showed last season he can be that guy. But the biggest question marks the past 2 seasons was the defense, and I felt like they addressed that a lot in the portal. Finally got some of their NIL money to come through, the checks went through, got some guys. And like I said, Nick Anderson is huge for that offense.
Very.
Losing Kyron Lacey is huge for them, even though, not the greatest off the field kind of gentleman. But
hey, we'll keep it at that. That's nice enough.
All right, who's next?
Hold on, but before we move on, I want to hit on LSU's run game. Cade Durham.
He won me some money last season.
Yes.
Cade's a dog.
They need to get him going.
Have to.
He was a freshman last year, and he's a sophomore now, obviously. They had no run game at all whatsoever. Cade Durham will fix that next year, I think.
Yeah. He showed a lot last year. And then you also got to look at the, big question marks. And, Landon can probably inform me more about this, but you're losing Will Campbell and Emory Jones.
Yeah.
Size.
That's huge. Yeah, that's huge.
And when you have an opening game like Clemson, I mean, you're going to expect some trouble on the offensive line. So, I mean, if they can figure it out, I'm sure they can. They have a great coaching staff down there in Baton Rouge. So they can get that stuff fixed before the season rolls around. I just think it's a big point that a lot of people on Twitter and a lot of people that I've been seeing with, these predictions and rankings and stuff like that. I think that's something that they're missing. They're not bringing that up as much as they should because that's huge.
Yeah. No doubt.
One more thing with LSU. One more thing. With the transfer portal, they got secondary throughout the whole portal. I think their secondary is going to be really good. I think that Patrick Payton for the edge getting them from Florida State, that was a huge get. I think he's going to be great this season for him.
All right, no doubt. Anything else?
That's it for LSU for me. How about you? You good, Logan?
I'm chilling.
All right, moving to Columbia, South Carolina.
I've been waiting for this one.
All right.
Shout out Brett Bielema, rep the Big Ten.
All right, going over to Columbia, South Carolina, Beamer ball.
Beamer world.
For me, last year they overachieved heavily. I don't think they're gonna repeat that next year.
No.
So 6-6 to 7-5 is my prediction. I just I don't see them repeating what they did last year.
I don't either. I got them going 8-4. I think they're heavily overrated heading into this season. I have them dropping to LSU, Bama, Ole Miss, and A&M. Maybe another game, so maybe even 7-5. That's just me, though. I do think Lenore Sellers is great. He'll carry them to some wins. But outside of that, I just think they're overrated.
No doubt. Logan?
I was undecided on them just because I think their team comp for this season is last year's Missouri. You have a lot of hype coming into the season after overachieving the year before. You have returning talent. You have a quarterback that you can trust. Now, obviously, I would take Lenore Sellers over Brady Cook in a heartbeat.
Every day.
And you don't have a Luther Burden on the outside. But when I'm looking at South Carolina, they have the 13th ranked transfer portal class according to On3. I just don't think they added anything they needed. They bulked up that defensive line. That did work for them last year. Didn't get any more weapons. They got a few interior offensive linemen. But I just don't – I think people are going to figure out Sellers. I think he's a great quarterback. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
And, it's the same thing with LSU. Like, I do think they have a ceiling and a floor. But you got a pretty solid schedule. I mean, you have a 5-week stretch of LSU, Oklahoma, who we'll touch on later. I think Oklahoma's going to be a lot better. Bama, at Ole Miss, at A&M. You're also at LSU. I forgot to mention that. You get Coastal, and then you have Clemson. All of those games are toss-ups.
Yeah.
All of those games are toss-ups. So I couldn't really figure it out, but I do think they do have a floor, a pretty solidly low floor of maybe 7-8 wins. And I think their ceiling could easily be 10 or 11 if Beamer can put it all together because they do have a lot of talent.
They do.
But Sellers, he got banged up a lot last year. You can trust that, and if you don't, you got Aaron Nolan in the portal.
Yeah.
So I mean, they got some dudes, they got some guys on that squad. It's just a matter of if they can put it together, and it's especially that rough five-week stretch. I mean, that's going to be make or break. Because, I mean, you can go 5-0 heading into, going into Baton Rouge. You got Virginia Tech, SC State, Vanderbilt, Missouri, Kentucky. You can easily go 5-0 there. but then that brutal 5-week stretch is going to get you. So that's going to make or break them, especially whenever it comes to the committee and getting into the playoff. That is going to be a huge stretch for them, and I don't know if they can make it through that stretch.
I had them starting 5-0 actually, and then just that stretch, like you said, that's just too brutal.
Yeah, and I mean, when you're looking at that stretch, 3 of those are away games.
Yeah.
2 of those are in some of the toughest environments in college football. Baton Rouge, Death Valley being arguably the number 1 hardest environment in college football, and then you got to go to Kyle Field. We know how Kyle Field gets at night. You know, we saw that a lot last season. They have a lot of hype going into this season as well. They hit the portal. They recruited very well this season. Then you're going at Ole Miss, and Ole Miss is tricky too. We'll touch on that later.
Yeah, I mean, for betting reference, that Bama game, I'm taking South Carolina to cover no matter what, for sure.
I think South Carolina to cover in most of those games is a very good pick. I mean,
it's a great bet.
They showed last year, especially as long as Beamer's there, they're going to be a competitive team. Even if they're down 20, they're still going to give it their all.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Moving over, speaking of Texas A&M, College Station, how are we feeling on A&M?
I got them going 9-3.
Okay.
I got them going. Oh, go ahead, Logan. Sorry.
No, you're good. I'm pulling something up real quick. Go ahead.
I got them going 8-4, 9-3. I got them losing to Notre Dame at South Bend is brutal. That especially early in the season. I just think they dropped that for sure. I got them losing to Florida, LSU, and also Texas. I think they go. Yeah, they're at Texas this year. I just don't see them winning that either.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. 8-4 seems about right. You know, going to South Bend, it's going to be tough. Notre Dame's losing some key guys, but you know, South Bend.
It's a tough environment.
The Auburn game will be close, but I still think Texas A&M gets their revenge. Obviously, LSU, Baton Rouge. That's probably going to be a night game, just like
sure.
every other home game for LSU is. Which is don't get me started on that.
Yeah.
Coincidental? No, absolutely not. I had A&M going at 9-3, and I could see them overachieving on that. Marcel Reed, I don't know if he's fully the guy. He did show glimpses last year, especially against LSU, you know. But like I said earlier, I don't think LSU is going to have those same problems this year. They did add KC in the portal, which, you know, we talked about in our group chat during the regular season. I mean, the biggest thing they were missing offensively was that number 1 guy, that reliable guy that can move the chains, and they just didn't have that. Now, if Evan Stewart didn't transfer, he very easily could have been that guy for sure. He's got a lot of talent, but with him leaving and them not really attacking the portal for receivers last year a ton, they just didn't have that guy, and it really hurt them a lot, especially down the stretch when everything started to fall apart. I did have them dropping the Texas game. Like I said, I'm with Connor. I think Texas is going to be the best football team in the country next season. I had them dropping Texas. I had them dropping LSU, and then I had them dropping Notre Dame.
And also them getting Micah from Tech was huge.
Mm-hmm.
Did Le'Veon Moss enter the draft? Do you know?
I actually don't know about that.
Because I know it's a loaded running back class. I mean, it'd probably be best for him to stay another year.
I know he got hurt last year.
He did. I think it was.
I think he's staying.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, I thought you said Micah Hyde, and I was like, did I get him and KC confused? No, they got them both. So
yeah, they got them both. Yeah,
and you know they have a really solid recruiting class. Opposite of what South Carolina did, in my opinion, they did address some needs very clearly, especially at the wide receiver position. I think they got better, and I'm willing to put more money on them than I am South Carolina next season.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
And plus,
I trust Elko. I trust Elko.
Elko's a dog. I was just about to say,
man, I like Elko, man.
But his comments though before the Auburn game though,
yeah, that was Jordan Hare getting back at him.
I mean,
yeah, that costed him right there. Like right when he said that, like Auburn won that game.
What are we doing? Like
Man,
we're just gonna give Auburn a free win.
Yeah.
I feel like at this point, any coach or player that says something,
it's bulletin board
manner,
material.
And I pray that Kalen DeBoer doesn't say nothing before heading to his first game
Oof.
to Jordan Hare.
Hey, you won't. There's
No,
no
he's gonna
no
say stuff
chance
like
in hell. No chance in hell he does something like that.
he's
No,
gonna
he
say
won't.
something like Shador did whenever he went into Autzen. This is a swag stadium. He's gonna say some shit like that about Jordan Hare, and then Auburn's gonna drop 45 on you guys.
Nah, chill.
Hey, don't be doing that to us.
All right, who's up next?
Moving over to Oxford, Ole Miss.
All right.
I'm really high on Ole Miss, but I still see them dropping 3 games. Austin Simmons is that guy.
Oh
I
yeah,
think he's.
I agree
I
for
think.
sure.
I think he is elite. He's gonna be very good next year, and he's gonna be the Ole Miss quarterback for 2 years. First year as a starter, they're gonna drop to LSU, Georgia, maybe Florida. I'm not so sure on the Florida game, but yeah, I think Austin Simmons is the truth for them, and Lane Kiffin will make him even better as a player. So
Yeah. I got them going 10-2, 9-3. I got them losing to LSU, Georgia, and maybe Florida. And Austin Simmons, not only because he's left-handed, he reminds me of Tua.
he's very
Tua,
accurate, very on
like,
top.
I didn't
very
want to say
accurate.
that. I did not want to say that, but
But
yeah.
he reminds me of Tua. Like the way he throws the ball, that spiral just reminds me of Tua. And Kiffin with them portal. I mean, Kiffin's the portal king.
I mean, number 2 class.
Yeah.
I mean, he's gonna hit the portal every offseason. And that's my biggest takeaway from Ole Miss is, you do have a new starting quarterback, in Austin Simmons. And, we all 3 agree that, he can very well be that guy. He's spent 2 years in that system. He understands it. He can, and we saw it in the Georgia game, that one drive he went in, he can step in and lead a drive.
Yes.
He can play a football game. He can ball. And you look at their recruiting class, Dazon Stribling from Oklahoma State. He's going to be their new number 1. And then you got Caleb Odin coming in from you guys. I mean, they attacked the portal for needs. They addressed their offensive line, which was a little shaky towards the end of last season, especially in the LSU game was a little shaky. They addressed the offensive line needs. They addressed, the wide receiver position very heavily. They addressed running backs. They addressed edges too, a few corners in their class. They have a very big class, but my fear for their portal class is it's very top heavy.
Very, yes. I was about to say that.
Heavy. And then you have other teams, who are just getting a lot of quality guys, like LSU. They're not top heavy. Like they're 3/4 of the way through. Like those guys are going to be plugged in and ready to play and ready to contribute and help them win games. I just don't see that for Ole Miss. I do have them finishing 10-2. I had them dropping Georgia, and I believe I also had them dropping LSU. And like I said, like LSU has a ceiling and a floor, and I'm very high on LSU, but you look at Ole Miss. I mean, we saw them lose to Kentucky and Florida last season, right? So you got to play Kentucky week 2. So you got to play Kentucky week 2. You're at home for LSU and South Carolina and Florida. That's huge. But your away games are Georgia and Oklahoma and Kentucky, and then Mississippi State. I mean, their 4 away games are only one of those is a real challenge. So they do have a very good advantage being at home majority of their schedule. So I did have that into a factor. Kiffin's a great coach. He's a great recruiter, knows how to hit the portal. We just haven't seen anything yet.
Mm-mm.
Get your popcorn ready.
Yeah, a lot of bonehead, going for it on 4th down on.
Dude, seeing him on Twitter makes my head explode. Especially after the committee released their playoff rankings, and he was just talking a bunch of shit throughout the games. And then whenever Tennessee got smacked by Ohio State, you didn't hear anything from him for like 3 days.
No. I mean, Roll Tide to Sidney Thomas. Anybody? Did he actually do that?
I
don't believe it. But
nah, I don't think that was him. It could have been, but
could it be him? Saban?
Hey.
All right, so we got a few more teams to cover. We got Arkansas left, Oklahoma, Auburn, Kentucky, and then Mississippi State, and then I think and then Missouri.
Let's do Missouri.
Yeah,
Missouri.
I'm just going. I'm going down the list. But yeah, we can go do
Dog,
Missouri.
7-5. Dude, they're going to be so bad next year. 7-5.
7-5.
Granted, I love me some Bo Prabula. I can never say his name first try.
Mhm.
Bo Prabula.
Oh,
Dog.
shit.
I wish Penn State used him more in that Ohio State game. I think Bo Prabula is a very talented kid, and I just think he can ball. The only problem is you're losing. They're losing so much.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I just, they hit the portal relatively, hard to a certain extent. They were the fourth class. They have a great class coming in, but I don't trust Eli either.
No.
Absolutely not.
Dude, look, before the Alabama game, when we shut him out at home,
Mm-hmm.
I liked him, but him, I can't really remember what happened, but he was complaining about something. It was just not a good look for him.
He complained something about the refs that day.
He's a big baby.
Yes.
He's a big whiny baby.
He's a big baby when he loses, but then whenever he wins, see y'all in the playoffs, tell the committee, and then they lose their last game.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on that. Though 7-5, there's nowhere to go but down.
I don't think they have a very high ceiling at all.
Losing
Not at all.
Luther, Cook. I mean,
And their schedule's not very favorable for them either. I think they can start the season 3-0, but then you got to play South Carolina. That's a loss. Bama, that's a loss. Auburn, I think they lose that game. They're at Jordan-Hare too. And 2 of your last 4 games are A&M and Oklahoma. There's your 5 losses right there. That's if they don't drop at Vanderbilt. And then if Mississippi State can play a miracle, we know Pittman's going to give you a game.
yeah,
So
no doubt. I mean, other than that, it's just there's no way
Yeah, there's just
but
no.
down.
Yeah. I got them going 8-4 or 7-5. I got them losing to South Carolina, Bama, Auburn, and A&M. Like, it's just exactly what y'all said. It's just nothing. It's just straight downhill. I just don't see this team doing
there's
anything.
nothing a whole lot to like about Missouri. We don't have to spend a ton of time on them.
Yeah,
They don't have-
What the hell is even in Missouri besides the big old arch? I mean,
Yeah, that's
nothing.
Man, the Kansas City Chiefs, man.
Man,
Anyways,
I'm talking about them.
Yeah, the only good thing about Missouri is their transfer portal class, but I don't think it's going to matter that much, especially with that schedule.
no. All right. Moving to Gainesville, Florida. Did we hit on Gainesville already?
Did we?
I don't
Not
think
yet.
so. I don't
No,
think
I
so.
don't
because
think-
I thought you hit on Gainesville whenever you said Napier, but we haven't hit Florida yet.
Yeah.
No, we haven't. So I have them going. I got them going 8-4, dropping the LSU, Texas, Georgia, and Ole Miss. They could go 9-3 if they beat Ole Miss, which I could see happening. I think DJ Lagway is the truth. He almost beat Georgia last year. If he didn't get hurt, they do beat Georgia, in my opinion. Billy's a great recruiter, and yeah, that's all I got on Florida.
I like it.
Logan, man.
They started off the season with Long Island and South Florida. 2-0, easy games. Then they're at Death Valley and then at Miami. I have them splitting those games. But then you go on a stretch of Texas and you play the 2 Texas schools. You got Texas and then you're at Kyle Field. I think they split those 2 as well. And then you're at home versus Georgia, which is huge. So I think their ceiling is definitely 2 losses. I definitely think they don't do much more than that. You still got to play Georgia and Ole Miss and Tennessee, so they could very easily go 7-5 again. They just have a brutal schedule once again, just like last year. So
Yes.
Lagway can carry his guys, but like I said, they didn't hit the portal very hard. They do have some guys that can be impact starters like Dallas Wilson. Dallas Wilson can come in and make a lot of plays.
I was
for
just
you.
about to bring them up. Yeah.
Yeah, you have a lot of guys coming in your recruiting class that can, produce day one. But looking at their schedule, I just don't think they can do it. I don't think they get more than 8 or 9 wins just because of their schedule.
Yeah,
Maybe-
they do have a tough draw.
Napier is not a great coach, so
Maybe year 3 Lagway, like maybe they can do something if their schedule's more favorable for them. But outside of that, I just don't. 8-4, 9-3 for me.
dude, like if they had a Texas schedule last year or this
Yes.
year with either one of those Texas schedules, they'd probably be one of my 3 picks to win the SEC. But it's just unfortunate that they have the bad draw again of a very tough SEC schedule. So
Yeah, 7-5 for me. LSU, Texas, Texas A&M, Georgia, Tennessee. I know you're a Big Ten guy, Logan, so you probably didn't know this, but Georgia and Florida play in Jacksonville on a neutral site, so it won't be at the Swamp.
I did not know that. Huge for Tennessee, man. Huge for Tennessee.
But just a tough draw of a schedule. I mean, Florida always kind of plays a gauntlet of a schedule, talking about SEC teams and whatnot. But DJ
God
Lagway,
knows how to play competitive out of conference.
Yeah, I mean, Billy Napier, when we were at the Senior Bowl practices,
He
was right
was
behind me.
dude.
Was right behind me. Maybe to that wall. All right.
Very close to us.
What's up, Coach Napier? Not a peep. You got a kid with a Florida helmet.
Yep.
Coach Napier, can you sign this for me? Ignores the kid. What are we doing? What are we doing, Napier?
If we're using Senior Bowl context to this, I can't wait to get to the Big Ten and touch on Minnesota. PJ Fleck's a horn dog. He was groping his wife on the sideline, talking to scouts and staff members, just straight up groping her on the sideline during practice. He wasn't even watching.
Too much PDA. Too much PDA.
Dude,
That's all I got to say. That's all I got to say.
It was funny. All right.
All right. Moving on from Florida. Gonna go from order from last year's standing. So we're gonna go to Arkansas. I ain't got nothing much to say about Arkansas. Sam Pittman. They showed some flashes last year. 4-8's generous out of me. So I mean 4-8, 3-9 seems about right. I just ain't got much to say.
I got them going 4-8, 9-3 also. I mean 3-9 also. Literally, I have it written right here. Just terrible. I mean, that's all I got for them. I mean, there's nothing much to say about Arkansas.
I mean, I don't even think they've, besides the Walmart sponsor on the field,
Yeah,
that's about, it helps a little bit for the recruiting and the NIL, but they don't use it.
Well, it's like what I touched on with Missouri. The only pretty thing about them, with the transfer portal, and I was shitting on Missouri quite a bit. They're still going to be a competitive, solid football team. Missouri is always a gritty team, but Missouri's Lululemon to literally Walmart right now.
Yeah.
Like, I would take Missouri to beat Arkansas 15 out of 15 times.
Oh, for sure.
So there's just nothing to look forward to if you're a Razorback fan. You haven't had a lot to look forward to in a while. It's not going to change anytime soon. So I feel like that's all we need to touch on for Arkansas.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, going to Nashville. I don't really like talking about this team.
I don't either.
Just because of what happened to us last year with Vandy.
Okay, y'all talk about it like it was 9/11.
It is for sure up there.
And he's still there. Diego's still there, so this makes it even worse.
But we got them home though.
Daddy of Alabama, man.
Right. You can say that again. 7-6 or 7-5 they went last year. Don't see that happening again.
I got them going 6-6. Same as you, Connor. You lose to South Carolina, and okay, Virginia Tech's a solid school. We'll get to them when we get to the ACC later this week. Virginia Tech's a solid team, and they got a lot better over this offseason. But they can lose to Tech. But my for sure losses were South Carolina, Bama, LSU, Missouri, Texas, and I have them losing to Auburn and Tennessee. So really, I had them at 5-7.
That's where I got them at.
It could be 4-8. Vanderbilt's gonna, the Commodore fans are gonna be shot back into reality next season. So
yes,
it's gonna even itself out.
Oh yeah, no doubt. What Coach Clark has done already there is, he's getting back to the trend where James Franklin left it. That 9-3 season they had. Seeing Vandy compete though with good teams last year. It's amazing. It's amazing to see.
It was great to see, yeah.
But Diego Pavia coming back. I mean, Alabama.
Yeah.
You've
it's
got
huge.
to win, and you've got to stop this man.
It's huge for that locker room too, and that coaching staff having a guy you trust, a guy that showed last year he can win your team some games. They obviously were not a very good team last year, but it's what we touched on with Lagway. Lagway can make the guys around him play to a higher standard, higher level. Pavia has that kind of effect in Nashville, so they can win out some gritty games. If we're looking at the schedule, obviously, very clearly after last season, question mark on Bama.
Huge.
You could win some gritty games. Like Auburn's going to be another gritty game. That's a flip of a coin. Texas, they were playing Texas real close. They're onside kick away from making it a real game. They got some grit. So
That
I was
Tennessee game,
surprised.
right? That Tennessee game, they were up, but they just couldn't finish it.
They played close with Tennessee and Texas. Auburn.
No, not okay. All right,
Yeah, let's do Auburn. I've been waiting for this one.
Waiting for this. God, man.
I got
All
them
right.
going. I got them going 8-4, maybe 7-5. I got them dropping the A&M game, the Georgia game, Bama. That Oklahoma game go either way. Oklahoma came in there and beat them at Jordan Hare last year, and they're at Oklahoma this year. I just don't.
Not to mention Oklahoma's down 5 receivers.
They were down
And starting
5.
with 2 freshmen.
That's just stupid.
And that Kentucky game, they could lose that Kentucky game pretty easily.
Yep.
I'm looking at this Auburn team. I mean, Cam Coleman's there. Obviously, the biggest individual that could have the biggest impact on the team, in my opinion, through the transfer portal is Jackson Arnold.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, a 5-star is a 5-star for a reason. Even though whenever you get to college, stars don't mean anything. He did have a few fumble issues last season. He had some big problems. He threw 6 or 7, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it was 5. But then you look at that cast around him. Oklahoma had one of the worst offensive lines in the country last year. Their wide receiver injuries didn't help. They didn't use their tight ends. They had 2 offensive coordinators throughout the regular season. Not to mention, I forget his name, but the OC that took the Mississippi State job, I mean, he was the offensive coordinator that helped recruit Arnold.
Levy?
Yeah, Levy. And, they were so confident in him, they shoved Dylan Gabriel out the door, and, he was just in an awful situation last season with everything that happened, very circumstantial. You go to Auburn, they have a solid offensive line. They hit the line a little bit in the portal. You have Cam Coleman there, and, I mean, plenty of weapons. You're losing Jarquez Hunter. That defense is going to be gritty. They have a very good defense. Kendrick Falk, shout out Steven. But I do not trust Hugh Freeze as a head coach. I do not think he has what it takes to coach in the SEC.
I agree.
I had them starting 3-0. I do have them beating Baylor week 1. Oklahoma's a toss-up, but I had them for sure losing A&M, Georgia, Alabama. There's a few games in here like your stretch with Missouri, Arkansas, Kentucky, Vanderbilt. Auburn could drop one of those, and then you have Oklahoma. And even if they, lose to Baylor, I mean, I think it's still just a 6 to 8 win football team. I had them going 8-4, because I do believe in that talent. It's just a matter if Freeze can put it together, and actually call a game to win.
Yeah.
I do think they have the talent to put it together. I think their ceiling is probably 8-4, maybe 9-3 if the ball falls, in a few lucky spots, especially against Alabama at Jordan Hare once again. So it's a little bit of a toss up. I think their floor is probably 6 or 7, but I think their ceiling is 8 or 9.
Yeah.
So we're not gonna, Walker White legacy game against his old team week 1. I mean, come on, what are we doing?
Not to mention they had the 9th overall transfer portal class. They're bringing in some guys. So I think their talent level is going to be pretty solid. It's just a matter of that coaching staff.
I forgot his name, but that Georgia Tech receiver they brought in was a huge pickup.
They got a good receiving core. I'll give
them that. Yeah, for sure.
That's the only thing I'll say. Nice.
Eric Singleton. Yeah, I just want to apologize to everyone why the names are slipping on me. I've been in baseball mode the past few weeks. Actually, ever since Oregon lost in the Rose Bowl, me and Connor have been in baseball mode.
Hey, baseball episode coming soon.
That's right. Look, some more predictions, some division winners who to put your money on.
Cy Young winner, MVP winner, Rookie of the Year.
Matt Shaw.
For me, look, Freeze finally gets a quarterback that he wants. So here's the thing: he's a good recruiter. There's
Oh,
no
100%.
there's no denying that.
Oh,
He's
yeah,
one of the
yeah.
best recruiters in college football.
Yeah.
You know, he had that what was it, top 2 or even 1 at Ole Miss in 2013 or 12
Mhm.
with Laramie Tunsil. Even though, you know, there was a bunch of violations there. Anyways,
He
didn't do
got escorted out. Let's just say that.
he didn't do much with that group. So where's Auburn fan? Why is Auburn fans thinking he can do something at Auburn? You know, I'm not saying this because I'm an Alabama fan, but I'm just saying, look, Deuce Knight, next Cam Newton, we'll see.
You
I
know,
don't see it.
I'm going to piggyback off of you, Connor. It's like what me and you said, and Dylan probably touched on it a little bit. Hugh Freeze is the biggest question mark. They have the talent, they have the roster to compete in the SEC, but that coaching staff has not shown anything since Hugh Freeze has been there that says y'all should trust us. We just haven't gotten our guy. It's the same thing with Billy Napier.
Yep.
Oh, Billy got his guy in Lagway. Sucked last season. Lagway comes in this year. They still suck. Lagway comes in and he shows some life. Save Billy's job. So if Jackson Arnold can do that with Hugh Freeze, great. But it's definitely a flip of the coin with Auburn just because of Hugh Freeze. And like I said, you know, I do think they have a pretty solid season. I think they'll have a pretty solid season. A lot to look forward to for Auburn fans. 100%. Absolutely no reason they shouldn't doubt this team. But I do see all the Auburn fans on Twitter and Instagram before everything happened talking a lot about, you know, Auburn, you know, being up there competing for the SEC title. And I just think that's unrealistic.
Very
Yeah,
unrealistic.
yeah, let's just y'all stick with basketball for now. You know,
Hey, you guys are both basketball schools right now.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and just.
Simultaneous.
but you know, this is a bowl game year. Like if they don't make a bowl game, it's a failure.
I honestly think even if they get 7 wins, I think this if Hugh Freeze doesn't get 8 wins this year, I think he should be fired.
Which I have them going
Yes.
7-5. That's Music City bowl game. Woohoo!
Hey, last time they were there, they lost it to his little brother. So, you know, they are
Hey.
literally little brother.
Yeah, I mean A&M lost, Georgia lost, Alabama lost. Even though you know,
The voodoo. Hey,
a lot of schedules in the, you know, SEC. They do have favorable. You have your, you know, SEC FCS game late November, which is still one of the stupidest things in college football right now. Anywho, that's a subject for another day. But they do have a particularly favorable schedule, especially down the stretch. Like I said earlier, the stretch of Missouri, Arkansas, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Mercer, and then Bama. So, I mean, they can very easily get, you know, 5 wins right there. I mean, if they play up to that talent level, Arkansas is going to suck, Kentucky's going to suck. But, you know, we've seen Hugh Freeze blow games like the Oklahoma game. There's no reason you should lose to janitors at wide receiver.
oh yeah, I agree.
you know, even though Alabama did too, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say anything about
Well,
that.
I mean, we touched on it, you know, during the regular season. Like that was, you know,
Mhm.
I didn't want Alabama in the playoff to begin with because of the Vanderbilt game. And, you know, y'all weren't playing particularly well the second half of the season. Ever since halftime of the Georgia game, y'all just didn't look like the same team.
Oh yeah,
Not at all.
The Oklahoma game proved that further. I mean, that was a pathetic game for you guys.
I'd rather
Yeah,
not talk about that game, bro. Like that.
I mean,
Speaking of
look,
Oklahoma, did we touch on Oklahoma yet?
No, not yet.
no. That's one of the last 3 teams. We got Oklahoma, Kentucky, and then Mississippi State. So let's go ahead, move over to Oklahoma and Norman. What y'all boys got?
You go and take this, Logan.
I have an interesting take on Oklahoma. You know, the more we've talked about it, I did have them going 7-5 before we talked about this, only because of their schedule.
Yep.
They hit offensive line in the portal. They've, you know, addressed some of their needs. I trust, you know, Venables hasn't shown anything to say, yeah, you can trust me. He's always going to have a good defense. You don't have to worry about that. Losing Bowman and Stutzman really, really hurts because those were leaders of your defense last season. But they just have a brutal schedule, man. I mean, you have, you know, your home and home series with Michigan, and I loved Mateer. Mateer was the best quarterback in the portal. I don't care who Carson Beck was. or is right now, even though he's not the same Carson Beck.
Yeah.
Mateer was the best.
Mateer was a huge kid.
100%. He'd be on my list of immediate impact transfers. But you have your home and home series with Michigan. Your home at Auburn, that could very easily be a win. We touched on that. I think Oklahoma does win that football game. But that back half of the season, man, is just so brutal. You got Kent State after Auburn. Then you got at home versus Texas and Red River. That's a rivalry game. Any way possible that could
anything can happen there.
100%.
Oklahoma could win that game. I mean, it's a rivalry game and go either way.
Back to 23. I mean, whenever Dylan Gabriel was still there, Texas still had a much better roster, so much more talented. But I mean, it's a rivalry game. You never know. So but I still think Texas will win that game. You got to go to South Carolina. That will more than likely be a loss. You're home against Ole Miss. That could go either way, but I think Ole Miss pulls it out. And then back-to-back road games in Knoxville and Tuscaloosa. I just think if they had a good schedule, I would trust them a little bit to get to 8 wins. So I just don't see it happening. So I still have them going 6-6.
I got them going 6-6 also. I have it right here, maybe 7-5. I mean, I agree with you what you said. That back half of that schedule is just brutal.
That back half to anybody is brutal. I don't care what your program looks like. That is just a brutal backstretch.
I forgot his name.
Going on the road like that. Sorry, Dylan, for cutting you off.
You're good, Connor. Go ahead.
But yeah, that schedule is absolutely brutal. I mean, 7-5 for me.
Yeah, I agree.
And it sucks because Venables. We talked about it with Jackson Arnold. Awful situation last year. He couldn't control that. I mean, maybe get some new strength and conditioning and maybe some new medical staff, but outside of that, you really couldn't control much.
Mm-hmm.
And he's always going to have a good defense, and it sucks too because I'm a Venables guy. I think he's a great coach, great defense coordinator. I think he's a good coach. It just sucks because he hasn't shown anything yet, and it blows my mind that Oklahoma signed him to an extension like anyone was trying to get him.
No one was trying to get him.
They just fucked themselves because I don't think anybody was trying to get Brett.
They weren't.
I don't think they were trying. I don't think Alabama, if they knew Saban was retiring, was going to go, yeah, that's going to be the guy.
He wasn't even on the list.
He can't recruit on a high level. They hit the portal a lot this offseason, especially getting Mateer. They're doing a lot of right things, but, this schedule is going to cost them his job. Same with Napier. Although Napier a lot more deserving of his releasement.
Speaking of the recruiting, he got I think the best tackle in the recruiting class this past season. He's gonna be a dog.
By far, immediate impact.
That's impact number one for Oklahoma.
That's we talked about. I mean, they hit the portal for interior offensive line. They got some tackles coming in. I mean, that offensive line is gonna be fixed. They just still lack the weapons.
Yeah.
Yep.
You got the
100%.
quarterback offensive line. Even their offense back half of the season with, their new offensive coordinator just did not look good at all.
No.
I agree with that. Moving over to our last 2 teams of this first episode of From the Sidelines. All right. Going to Kentucky. All right. I mean,
Connor, you got this one.
No high expectations. No high expectations for these guys. I mean, Vandergriff retired from football, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he did. Did he?
I think
Yeah,
I think I saw something like that.
He did.
So,
Yeah, he did.
Hold
Former what? 5-star from Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, almost beat Georgia too.
Yeah.
If Stoops wasn't so,
he announced his retirement the last week of December.
Yeah, I mean, you're a couple plays from beating Georgia at home. If Stoops had the nuts to go for it
they won that football game.
Stoops sucks, dude.
If you don't think you can get a yard or an inch, you have zero desire. You shouldn't be playing football. But I mean, like I said, no expectations for Kentucky to be good at all. Even though Stoops is a good coach, 4-8. For Kentucky, he's a good coach.
Yeah, they don't really have a high standard. They're a basketball school, even now.
Yeah, I mean 4-8, Ole Miss, South Carolina, Georgia, Texas, Tennessee, Auburn, and then their rival Louisville at Louisville. I mean, what does Kentucky got going on for them besides basketball?
Nothing really.
They get a full week of talking shit to Tennessee fans, but that typically doesn't really
Yeah, outside of that,
historically, it's never been great. I mean, they're only 3. And it's like we talked about earlier. They're not going to get a win past Eastern Michigan. They play Toledo, Ole Miss, Eastern Michigan, and then their next win is Tennessee Tech.
Yeah, I mean their non-conference schedule outside of their rival Louisville. I mean Tennessee Tech, FCS, Toledo, horrible.
I mean, Toledo can produce some guys, but they're never going to be a team.
Yeah, Eastern Michigan likes to fight players after bowl games. If you know, you know.
Hey, man.
All right, so
J's up, baby.
I got them going 3-9, 4-8. Like y'all, it's just I don't see anything special with this football team. New quarterback they're gonna have. That defense is not that great. Mark Stoops, yeah, he's a good coach for Kentucky, but outside of that, I just don't see nothing with that football team.
Logan, you got anything on Kentucky for us?
No, they just suck, dude.
I got you.
I don't have anything to say. There's no expectations. There's no ceiling. There's definitely,
I don't have much to say either.
Dude, and then they could easily lose the Eastern Michigan and Toledo games. Too. I mean, there's literally nothing to look forward to if you're a Wildcat.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, moving over. Best for last. Mississippi State, Hell State, home of Chris Jones and Fletcher Cox and Darius Slay.
Don't forget Jeffrey Simmons, man.
All right, so
Big Jeff.
I got them going 3-9, maybe 2-10. I don't see them winning a game past September 14th. There's nothing much to talk about this football team. They're just
again.
Like I don't see them winning a game past September 14th.
This schedule just sucks, dude.
Their schedule's brutal too.
Look, they go on the road to start off Southern Miss. I'm not even for sure if they can win that game, since they got all the guys. Southern Miss got all the guys from Marshall going in, and Southern Miss. Look, Mississippi State is so vulnerable to lose this game too, because who did they lose to at home? It was
they lost to
I'm not sure, but it was a horrible loss at home.
Oh! I know what game you're talking about.
Was it Bowling Green? No, it wasn't Bowling Green.
No, it wasn't.
But they got blown out at home.
Level, though.
You want to know why they got blown out at home? Because I put them on the parlay.
But I don't see Levy surviving another year. I think he'll get fired after this year.
They lost to Toledo. That was the game they got absolutely blown out at home.
Toledo.
Yeah, that was the team I was thinking of.
Go ahead.
They're continuing their home and home with Arizona State. I mean, we'll get to it when we get to the Big 12. Obviously, the story of Arizona State being picked last, I still think they're going to be very good. They have Sam Levitt coming back. Obviously, not having Scatterbo sucks, but I mean,
they're still
is it gonna hurt that bad? You know what I mean? Kenny Dillingham, he's still gonna be a pass first head coach.
Stud.
So like you said, they can very easily lose Southern Miss. They're losing Arizona State. And I think we're ignoring the national champion runner up Northern Illinois as a possibility of a loss. All right.
Hey, they may not win a game this year.
Dude, if they don't beat Alcorn State, I think the SEC just needs to drop them.
Drop them to the Sun Belt. Bring up
South Alabama.
Bring up South. Let's bring up South. Hey, Logan, your South Dynasty.
But yeah, I don't see them winning a conference game at all. 0-8, even though they're doing very well in the portal. And getting recruits.
Losing Burren hurts a lot.
Like being in the top 40 and recruiting and, the portal, it's kind of insane to me how this guy is getting recruits to come to a Cal school.
And, one of my biggest arguments for head coaches is I understand Belichick got this still, because of his age. But one of my biggest things for head coaches is I don't want to see guys signing 6-7 year contracts and then getting fired 3 years later, or getting fired within their first 3 years, or being one and dones or two and dones.
Yeah, I can't
Like,
stand that.
especially when you take a program like Mississippi State that is already in the dumps, it's going to take more than 2 or 3 years to get it turned around.
Yes.
Like Auburn, Hugh Freeze, he's had plenty of time. He's gotten his guys. He's gotten his transfer portal. His time is up. He's got to produce on the field now.
This is a year for you.
Levy is going to need a few more years. And, Mississippi State's not one of those programs like we touched on earlier that has a super high standard of football. They haven't since 2014 or 2015, maybe even a little bit in 2019 and 2018, but they don't have that super high of a standard. So I feel like if Levy can show consistent improvement year by year and show that, hey, we're getting the guys I want, we're getting the portal, we're opening up the budget a little bit and we're getting our guys, I'm going to produce. I think he can do it. It's too early for that.
Yeah, touching on that, Mike Leach, his passing did not help at all. Rest in peace to the Pirate. It did not help. It did not
Shout
help
out
that
Gardner
program.
Minshew.
Yeah, it did not help that program at all. I think it set them back, 5 to 6 years.
Because he was doing solid. I mean, he wasn't doing great, but he wasn't doing bad.
Yeah, I mean,
he wasn't doing terrible at all.
He would have his, 6 and 6 years, get him to a bowl game, it's whatever, which that's pretty solid for State. But ever since that, I just, it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, it's very hard to recover from something like that, especially when, Mike Leach is one of those coaches that players buy into. Players want to go play for him. They're not going for the money or, they know they're not going to win immediately. Mike Leach is a player's coach, and losing a guy like that, you're going to see tremendous talent drop off. You're going to see guys leave. It sucks because they can't sit there and say, yeah, I'm leaving because, my coach died. But that was the reality of it after Mike Leach passed.
Yeah, and he's a hell of an offensive-minded coach, I mean.
Air raid that mother out, dude.
Hey, clips to 2020 LSU game.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
But, I mean, yeah.
I don't have much to say about him. I mean, I don't think they'll be impatient and fire Levy, like I said earlier. The more I think about it, it will give him give him a couple more years to figure it out. He's a good offensive-minded coach. There's nothing from Mississippi State for me to talk about.
Yeah,
they're not going to be impatient with him. I think they got their guy. I think they understand his vision. I think he's very clear about it. Even in his conferences and his interviews, he's very clear about what he wants the program to be, and I think he can get them there. It's just, when you get a dumpster fire like that, I mean, it's very hard to turn that thing around.
Yeah.
So. I feel like a lot of people, including myself, need to be more patient and giving guys like this a chance to turn around a program like this. We're going to touch on it about like the Saints and stuff, like Kellen Moore and his staff, like give that guy some time to turn the ship around.
It's like even, Dylan can't really touch on it a lot because this is year 3 or 4 of Dayball.
Yeah.
Yeah, after year 1 of Callahan, and I talked to Callahan at the combine, super, super cool guy. And, I told him, I was like, I watched the film. You were getting guys open. And it just sucks because when you have offensive-minded head coaches, they can get guys open. But, year 1, a year 2 GM, like that stuff's going to take some time. And a lot of these fans, even people within the organization, they're just super impatient. They want to see a winner, but they don't look at teams like the Chiefs who were bad and then they were mid. They were all right. They were sneaking into the wild card, still winning the West because the West sucked outside of Phillip Rivers and the Chargers.
Yeah.
But that stuff takes time, and people don't understand that. They just want to see wins. I took the Titans winning for granted because I didn't think we were going to trade, the best, one of the best players in the history of our franchise within the past 15 years. I didn't think we were going to trade him, and we did. So, things happen, and it takes a turn. So,
hey, I mean, back to that with Dayball thing, like just let him get his quarterback and just let's see what he can do with that. It was just pitiful with Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones could make a read to save his life. Dayball was getting the guys open. It's just Daniel Jones just was terrible, and he just couldn't get the ball.
I mean, I wish I could throw up one of the mini Will Levis pictures right now, and that just describes the entire season.
Yeah, I mean, we can for sure, whenever someone says something outrageous, we can just throw up one of those pictures and
Yeah, we can do
Well-
that.
we'll know.
Or
For
just
like,
Drake.
yeah, or for like,
I
Braylon.
was gonna say something, but I can't say it. Whoa. Okay, hold on.
Hey, now.
Well, guys, we covered the SEC, covered everything pretty thoroughly. I think we'll be much more prepared next time. First pod, learning as we go, baby steps. But I thought we did pretty solid for the first time. Dylan, Connor, always nice to talk to you guys about sports,
Yeah.
whatever
sir.
it might be, certain days, certain, sports. But if you watch, appreciate you for watching. Make sure y'all like and subscribe. And we have our socials floating down screen there to your bottom. If y'all didn't notice that, throughout the hour and 28 minutes we've been recording. So appreciate you guys. Make sure you like and follow and just follow our socials, and we'll pump out some more content.